Tonight, a mother and son's remarkable reunion to reconcile a stolen past. From New Zealand to Winnipeg.
It's the first time I've actually laid eyes on my mother.
I thought I would never see him again. He was only 2 months old when they took him away from me.
What led to their separation and their sentimental reconnection half a century later. The targets of a deadly Catholic school shooting in Minnesota.
And I just ran under the pew, and then I covered my head.
What we are learning about the victims and the shooter. Plus, the high-tech tool for traffic lights.
Who's at the intersection? Are they in vehicles? Are they waiting at the sidewalk? Are they on a bicycle?
How AI could stop gridlock for good.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. We begin with an extraordinary reunion tonight, decades in the making. For the first time in 50 years today, Jonathan Hooker finally felt his mother's embrace in an emotional homecoming. He was one of thousands of Indigenous children ripped away from their families without their consent and placed in non-Indigenous households, stripping them of their culture and identity. CTV's Alex Karpa on what led to this joyous moment.
It's an emotional homecoming for Jonathan Hooker, 1 decade in the making. For the first time in 50 years, Hooker has returned home to Manitoba to reconnect with his Indigenous heritage and family.
It's the first time I've actually laid eyes on my mother, so yep. It's been a journey, all right. It's it's all a bit overwhelming to be here today, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hooker was taken from his community of Moose Lake in 1975 during a government operation known infamously as the 60s Scoop. At just 18 months old, he was adopted by a family in Manitoba who then moved to New Zealand.
Through my adopted parents, they were always pretty open about things. I always knew that I was adopted. I guess up until a couple of years ago, I didn't really fully understand how it all played out.
Hooker's biological mother, Patsy George, has dreamt of this reunion since the moment her son was taken away.
I thought I would never see him again. He was only 2 months old when they took him away from me. And my other daughter, a month old.
An estimated 30,000 Indigenous children were taken from their homes between 1951 and 1991, many of them placed into non-Indigenous homes across Canada and around the world.
This is a moment to celebrate that there is hope for a lot of people all over the world that are searching for their families, and this is one of those examples.
Hooker hopes his story can help others who are in his situation.
So hopefully somebody else, again, will see this and hopefully maybe start looking for their family, or it'll give them some clues to reach out and help.
Hooker will be staying here in Manitoba for 3 weeks and will return to his home community of Moose Lake First Nation at the beginning of September. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The excitement of a new school year was quickly shattered in Minneapolis today. 2 children were killed and 17 others injured as they were praying. The FBI is now investigating the shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. CTV's Mike LeCouture on what we know about the young victims.
The hugs are a little longer and a little tighter tonight in Minneapolis. In their first week of class, children at a Catholic school were targeted in a mass shooting that is being called cruel and cowardly.
Any troopers responding, we received a lot more medical.
Police say at around 8:30 this morning, the assailant fired multiple shots through the stained glass windows. Students and adults who were inside ducked and ran for cover.
I just ran under the pew, and then I covered my head. My friend saved me though, because he laid on top of me, but he got hit.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And so a teacher led me downstairs. Me and my friend Cece were just praying.
2 children aged 8 and 10 were killed. The 17 wounded are as young as 6, and the oldest is in their 80s.
There was some sort of manifesto that was timed to come out on YouTube. It's been taken down, and our investigators are going through that to try and develop a motive from that.
Police identified the shooter as 23-year-old Robin Westman, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The FBI director described Westman as a male, but legal documents requesting a name change say Westman identified as female. The mayor has since heard of hate directed at the trans community.
Anybody who is using this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any other community out there has lost their sense of common humanity.
Meantime, a community is grappling with an unspeakable horror, and families are coming to grips with unimaginable loss.
These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary.
Prime Minister Mark Carney posted online, "Canadians are holding your community in our hearts," while President Donald Trump has ordered flags at federal buildings to be flown at half-mast. Omar.
Michael Couture in Washington tonight. A Canadian government source says the work Canada is doing to tackle border security and fentanyl trafficking was acknowledged today at a meeting in Washington. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi meeting today with Justice Minister Sean Fraser, as well as the Public Safety Minister and Canada's fentanyl czar. The U.S. Department of Justice called Canada to schedule the talks. And that meeting coming a day after Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc met with the U.S. Commerce Secretary, trying to further talks on tariffs and trade. The Trump administration's policies have been creating major challenges for Canadian businesses, who insist that another looming change that comes into effect in less than 48 hours could make things even worse. CTV's Rachel Aiello explains.
60% of our online sales for antiques are going to the States.
For small shop owners like Dave Pelkey, who use platforms like Etsy to reach customers south of the border, the United States scrapping its de minimis tariff exemption is going to hit hard.
My worst fear is that people just decide not to buy at all, just because the price is uncertain, whether they're going to get it or not is uncertain.
Starting Friday, all U.S.-bound shipments worth $800 or less will be hit with duties, forcing tough choices for Canadian businesses. Absorb or pass on the cost, cut off a key market,
So we'll do a CUSMA form,
or go through the complex process of becoming CUSMA compliant.
It's coming at a time where you don't necessarily have a lot of resilience in the small business sector.
But Donald Trump dumping de minimis is also set to cost American consumers and could result in big headaches for U.S. border agents.
It was there for a reason, to speed up things.
Millions of duty-free packages enter the U.S. daily. But with this change looming, postal operators in at least 25 countries are suspending U.S. shipping, citing the lack of clarity around enforcement. Canada Post is not one of them. Instead, they'll be using a third party to collect and send the duties directly to U.S. Customs. For products originating in Canada, the current tariff rate is 35% for most goods.
We received quite a few orders on Saturday and Sunday. We paid extra shipping costs to make sure that they made it across the border.
A key caveat to take note of, Omar, Canada Post flagged to us today that documents and gifts valued under $100 sent from Canadians, not businesses, will be exempt.
All right, Rachel, thank you for this tonight. The Prime Minister wrapped up his trip to Europe today with a visit to Canadian soldiers stationed in Latvia, the armed forces' largest overseas mission. CTV's Abigail Beeman on what Mark Carney told the troops.
Inside a field ambulance, up close with tanks, Prime Minister Mark Carney talked to dozens of Canadian troops to learn what they do, and he heard what they need.
You see how important, for lack of a better term, drones are in the Ukraine fight. We are watching, studying, understanding how that fight is there, but we need those pieces of equipment here in Latvia.
Drone operator Wayne Fraser says modernization would help too, right down to his tactical vest.
It is a little outdated. There's no modular capability with it, which can be a little bit impeding.
We're also, back home, creating a new defense procurement agency so we can build at pace. So the women and men of the armed forces have cutting-edge military equipment that they need and deserve.
About 200 kilometers from the Russian border, the Prime Minister announced a 3-year extension of Operation Reassurance, saying, unfortunately, the need for the Canadian-led NATO mission here has only intensified. Carney didn't take questions. His defense minister pushed on whether Canadian troops in Ukraine was a possibility, regardless of a ceasefire.
These conversations are continuing. Obviously, the United States has an important role to play, so we'll see.
Latvia was the last stop on a 4-country European tour for the Prime Minister, who told Canadian troops here in Latvia what he told Ukrainians in Kyiv, that the strategy for Russia needs to be deter and fortify. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Camp Adige, Latvia.
The largest fire in Nova Scotia is gaining intensity tonight, and officials in the province say crews are bracing for another challenging couple of days. CTV's Paul Hollingsworth shows us how the community is coming together to support those fleeing the flames and also those fighting them.
As crews continue the dangerous work fighting the 80-square-kilometer Long Lake wildfire, the people who live in Annapolis County continue to rally around the evacuees and firefighters. Around 500 homes or properties have been evacuated so far. This temporary Red Cross Comfort Center offers shelter, food, and clothing for people who were forced to flee their homes. While at a nearby former military base, donations continue to pour in, supporting more than 150 firefighters from out of province.
We had a call out yesterday for supplies that were needed, so we're here hoping to donate a little bit to that cause.
It's a similar theme at the Royal Canadian Legion in Bridgetown.
Anything we can do to help the evacuees, we're willing to do it.
The volunteers at the Legion in Bridgetown are working 16 hours a day.
We're doing four-hour shifts,
feeding and supporting provincial firefighters who have been on the job for 2 weeks.
They eat 3 meals a day, so we're serving approximately 100 people.
Legion President Stuart Lenthal Ascot says it's a grassroots team effort with hundreds of volunteers from numerous organizations stepping up to support the community. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
If you are a young person looking for a job and are finding the market is tight, a new report is confirming that tonight. Landing work for young Canadians is the toughest it's been in about a decade and a half. CTV's Adrian Gobriel takes a look at the numbers, the impact, and how to best position yourself.
Printing off their resumes inside this Youth Employment Services Centre, teenage siblings Crystal and Avesh Mohavir, who recently moved from Guyana to Canada, are preparing to enter a scarce job market.
It's very difficult to find a job when you're new.
What type of job are you hoping to find?
Plumbing and real estate,
You're open to any and all opportunities.
Yeah.
That positive attitude may be a prerequisite for any young Canadian searching for work. CIBC Capital Markets has shared that unemployment for those aged 15 to 24 has increased by more than 5.5% since 2022. The average uptick in youth unemployment during a recession typically has been around 4%.
It is unusual to see this level of youth unemployment when the economy is not in an outright recession.
CIBC economists believe artificial intelligence is in part to blame.
It's taking out some routine jobs that entry-level workers did. And part of it is other technologies, fewer jobs for young people working in a store, manning the checkout counter.
Earlier this month, Statistics Canada announced that youth unemployment in July rose to 14.6%, the highest rate since 2010. Those working inside employment centres like this one believe a decline in retail positions has led to fewer jobs, and U.S. tariffs have resulted in small businesses putting a freeze on new hires.
We are seeing about a 20% increase in youth coming in to see us. They have, in some cases, sent in hundreds and hundreds of resumes, not getting any callbacks.
Leaving some to wonder how deep the unemployment hole could get for youth should Canada actually tumble into a recession in the near future. For young Canadians searching for a career path, those who work here at this employment centre say they're currently seeing openings in cybersecurity, cloud computing, and the trades. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Coming up.
They really sounded professional on the phone.
How scammers ripped off this 89-year-old and what her community is doing to help her. Plus, why Canada is pushing forward with a major investment in electric vehicles when customers are putting the brakes on purchases. Calgary's bomb squad was called into service tonight to handle a volatile substance.
The public can expect loud bangs, potentially fire and bursts of smoke, but this is all normal.
Police say a package of potentially explosive acid was mislabeled and sat around for 10 days. A no-fly zone has been set up above the site. A Montreal community is coming together to help an 89-year-old who lost more than $50,000 to scammers.
Well, it's sort of embarrassing. You know, you feel embarrassed that you let yourself get scammed like that.
Diane Riley's ordeal began with a phone call in February from a person claiming to be from an anti-fraud squad who said her account had been compromised and that someone would be sent to collect her bank cards. That person did come, and Riley's account was eventually drained. Making matters worse, the rent checks for the assisted living facility where she lives with her 2 special needs children kept bouncing. Her family has set up a community fundraiser to keep them in their home. Ottawa is spending millions on electric vehicle charging infrastructure across the country, but as CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson reports, it's happening despite a big slump in EV sales.
Hundreds of new electric vehicle charging stations are coming to one of Canada's fastest EV adopters.
Canadians are making that choice, particularly here in BC, leading the charge. BC and Quebec have a great rivalry, I think, bringing on EVs.
In Victoria, the Carney government announced $22 million in funding for nearly 500 new EV chargers in the province, part of building out EV infrastructure to support its zero-emission vehicle mandate. The mandate requires 20% of all light-duty vehicles sold in Canada to be fully electric or plug-in hybrid by next year, 60% by 2030, and that rises to 100% by 2035.
We are committed to growing EVs across Canada and making them more affordable and more accessible.
The auto industry, under pressure by U.S. tariffs, wants the mandate eliminated, saying thousands of jobs could be at risk. Recent polling shows close to 3/4 of Canadians think it should be rolled back. And EV sales in June were down 35% year over year. Some blame the end of the federal rebate program that saved buyers thousands.
The incentive that was in place for consumers to buy cars has now disappeared. And, and when you take things away from customers, they will rebel.
The EV push is also coming under attack from Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, who cited a study on the significant drop in battery power in sub-zero temperatures.
Rural communities in much of Canada would simply cease to exist over the next 10 years without the ability to use gas and diesel-powered vehicles.
1 in every 4 cars sold this year is expected to be electric, with China and Europe leading the way. July sales year over year globally jumped more than 20%. Right now, Canada is driving in the other direction. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still ahead. What's inside a time capsule Princess Diana buried more than 30 years ago? We show you the contents next. The world is getting a look at what's inside a time capsule buried over 30 years ago by the late Princess Diana. The capsule is from 1991 and was dug up today. Among the many items in the box, an early pocket TV, a solar-powered calculator, and a Kylie Minogue CD. Well, from the past to the future, and one more thing being impacted by artificial intelligence. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin shows us how it's being used in one town to ease the traffic burden.
This busy boulevard in the town of Kirkland, Quebec, has come a long way. The longtime mayor here, Michel Gibson, says he once faced a steady flow of complaints about the flow of traffic.
Basic clogging vehicles, honking, on.
A story of wasted time that resonates in many cities across Canada. But Kirkland zeroed in on a high-tech solution calling on AI.
Those are radars and also cameras.
The data is analyzed and triggers the lights which are synchronized along the boulevard. This powered by No Traffic, a mobility management platform.
The radar can see things in the dark, in the rain, in the snow, and in shadows. And in using those, we can get a very robust understanding of who's at the intersection. Are they in vehicles? Are they waiting at the sidewalk? Are they on a bicycle?
The technology is now installed in several municipalities in 4 provinces. Now, the cost was a big investment for the small but growing municipality of Kirkland, $1.8 million for 10 intersections. But the mayor says green-lighting AI eased congestion and its consequences.
We've seen a reduction of pollution, waiting time, but also this intersection are safer for pedestrians.
No Traffic says it has crunched the numbers.
We've reduced commuter delays by 48%. If you happen to drive this corridor, you'll see a difference. Pedestrian delays have gone down 33%. And also reduction in emissions has come down by 2,800 metric tons.
Now, not all motorists give the traffic lights a passing grade.
Very often you're stopped at almost every light.
Still, many other commuters say on most days it makes the ride a lot smoother. The municipality here says the cost has been worthwhile, and other cities are looking into the technology. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Kirkland, Quebec.
Still ahead, how a young boy's rock collection turned into a major museum. We leave you tonight with the story of a boy's fascination for rocks, one that never went away and has grown into something very special in rural Saskatchewan. CTV's Allison Bamford walks us through a very unique museum.
Nestled along a quiet main street in a small prairie town 50 minutes northwest of Saskatoon sits a hidden gem, or thousands of them.
This one is a bismuth crystal.
The Sasula Mineral and Gem Museum is built up from Judah Tyerman's childhood rock collection.
I like shiny things, I suppose.
His fascination started young, at 9 years old, collecting and polishing rocks he'd find along the railroad tracks.
We had things in cupboards. We couldn't eat off the table for like a month. I think my mother once said to me, I don't care if you open a store or museum, just get the rocks out of my house.
And by 11 years old, that's what he did.
So this is a baby mammoth tooth.
Now 21, Tyerman's expanded his collection to include thousands of rocks from around the world, including Canada's only baby T-Rex.
I was a little bit overwhelmed the first time I walked here because there was just so many things, so you don't even know where to look at.
Unlike other museums where you can look but you can't touch, visitors here are actually encouraged to pick up the rocks, feel them in their hands, because that's really the only way, they say, you can explore.
There's a different presence when you actually get the weight and magnitude and texture of something, rather than just seeing it behind glass.
The hands-on display has attracted visitors from as far away as China, Israel, and Russia, something he never could have imagined 10 years ago.
I didn't actually think people liked rocks like I did, but I found out differently.
A pleasant surprise for the curator, who's now working on bigger, brighter displays that could draw in the next generation of collectors. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Radisson, Saskatchewan.
Looks incredible. And that's a snapshot of this Wednesday. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.